Nice to meet you all. So we'll have a nice conversation today about corporate SMEs and collaborations. I'm excited for this. Maybe we'll just start with Jeffrey. Maybe you can explain a little bit about what you do, Zest, and tell us a little more about collaboration.
Actually, try to start.
Absolutely. Thank you very much. As mentioned, Kyle, my name is Jeffrey Beyer. I'm the founder and managing director of Zest Associates. It's a sustainability consultancy based in Dubai. We work with both governments and large corporates, as well as SMEs and innovators. And one of the key things that Zest does is tries to make connections, really do some corporate matchmaking between low-carbon innovators with exceptional technologies and the large corporates who really want to diversify and to find solutions to some of the challenges they're facing. In fact, next door, you'll see the Climate Innovation Exchange. I organized this group of 22 female founders from around the world to come and showcase their amazing technologies here at the show. There's also the Green Hydrogen Hub, another 10 hydrogen innovators with, again, groundbreaking technologies. So this is part of what I do at Zest, is try to matchmake between these small companies and the big ones and really bring some of the leading solutions to the marketplace. Nice. So it's a pleasure to be here with you today. Thank you.
Excellent. Over to you, Tala. Maybe you can tell us a little bit about what you're up to and, yep.
Sure. I don't know if this is on. Can you all hear me? So my name is Tala Alem. I lead the sustainability agenda for PepsiCo in the GCC. So I'm sure you're all familiar with some of our brands. So we have the beverage side of the business that has Pepsi, 7-Up, Aquafina. And we have the snacks side of the business, so everything from Lay's, Doritos, and Cheetos, and all that good stuff. And maybe what not a lot of people know is that we're also on a very intense sustainability journey. Our sustainability strategy was launched a few years ago. It's a global strategy that then each market and each region in the world takes that and localizes it depending on the business model, depending on the local needs, and so on. So what our sustainability strategy covers is exactly our entire value chain. So we look at our whole operation, from how we source our material to how we package it, to how we deliver it to consumers, and then what happens to that packaging and those products after their consumers are done with them. So that whole operation. And as you can imagine, where a lot of the work is being done internally, but also we have to look to the external environment for some of the solutions that are potentially lacking in that value chain.
Awesome.
My name is Kamal Farah. It's a pleasure to be here and talk to you about the sustainability environment here. I'm from a company called Desert Board. We are the first and only company in the world where we turn date palm waste into a value-added product, and that is a wooden board. Now, the board we produce is the most sustainable board in the world. It has a carbon footprint which is negative, which means that we capture carbon. We capture 400 kilograms of carbon per meter cube. Now, that's done as per a study when the production was lower. And we do this at scale. And it is manufactured here in Abu Dhabi. As I said, we're the only company in the world, and it's through a patent technology that we have developed. And we're very proud to be producing a board that is the most sustainable board in the world in the UAE, from the UAE, that you can actually build houses from. So yeah, that's what I do.
Amazing. Okay. So great. We have an SME, we have a large corporate, and we have, well, I guess you're an SME also, but also a connector of the two. So welcome everyone. So we'll just kind of keep this open, this conversation. If anyone has any, immediate questions, please raise your hands. But maybe I'll start. What are the challenges with making these collaborations? So anyone of you guys, whoever wants to take that question to start us off.
I'm happy to give it a few words. Yeah, so one of the things that I've noticed working with large corporates is a certain risk aversion to new products, right? There's a certain level of quality, a certain brand you need to maintain, and introducing new products, new innovations into an existing ecosystem of activity within a company can be tough. I know there's a lot of innovators who want to introduce those products into companies, and they don't have the right inroads. They find it difficult to know how to access the right decision makers and how to really penetrate what can be sometimes, what feels like an impenetrable, large, kind of sometimes faceless company. One of the ways that I think we can overcome some of those challenges is really working with large corporations to create innovation programs that actively seek out new innovations and create a pathway from a funnel almost of of innovators who have good ideas, and those can be kind of assessed, understood how they can fit into corporate needs, how they can address cost, quality challenges that the corporations are facing, and then create a pathway, in particular for procurement, around how those new programs and products and services can be sold into the company. I've done this a number of times through different accelerator programs, different incubator programs. These are really effective ways for small companies to be able to get that kind of access to a large corporation and get the support that's needed to be able to break in. It's not always an expensive thing for a big company to do either, right? These types of programs can be run by companies like Zest or other companies, and they can do this kind of global search for low carbon innovations that address specific challenges the company is facing, and create that kind of filter that allows only the best of the best from the global innovation community to present their products and services to the company. So for me, access is a big one, and I think large companies have a real opportunity and in some ways an obligation to be able to create those programs that attract those investors and innovators. No.
No, please.
I was just going to give an example. So I think I agree with you completely, and that's the conclusion that we've reached to at PepsiCo quite recently. And we started running. So first we started looking at like ideation programs. So how can we get students at schools and universities to think of great new ideas that we can then take and adopt? And then you realize that that's like one step, and then the next step is, okay, what do I do with that now? As you rightfully said, I think a big company like PepsiCo, it's a lot harder for us to move quickly or to innovate within the same company, and so we look to the external environment. So what we did next is we thought, okay, maybe we target the next level of ideation. So actually companies that have started and have pilots in place or MVPs. And so we started an accelerator program. This year, so first we did an accelerator program as PepsiCo ourselves. And then we realized that actually even our value chain, even if we look at agriculture and we look at industrial plants such as ourselves, that's still not enough. And we're not able to give those companies access just to our own suppliers and partners. So how can we grow this? So it's been a learning process. This year, we launched an accelerator with SABIC. So SABIC is one of the largest petrochemical companies in the world, and it might not be the most obvious thing when you think PepsiCo and SABIC partnering on something, but actually they have, even though our value chains are completely different, there's a lot of areas in which we intersect. Most notably is like food security, renewable energy, and then circular economy, which I think is the big thing for both of us. And so we got together, we partnered on this accelerator. We're looking for startups within the MENA region, so not a global search, but I think that was one of the challenges that we had in the beginning, is there not enough local solutions for the local problems that the local companies are facing.
Interesting.
So we started looking for startups within the region. Now, some of the findings of this year, some of the insights, what are the challenges? I think a big challenge, yes, is access, but also access to opportunity to run pilots. So when we started running accelerators 3 years ago, we had some startups submit to that accelerator. 3 years later, we run an accelerator now. It's those same startups that are still submitting to the accelerator. And I know 3 years might not seem like a long time, but in that startup world, it is. They need to be moving fast. And so they're still at a stage where they need opportunity to pilot, to go to prove to the rest of the ecosystem that this is actually a good idea. So yes, access to resources, access to funding, and access to opportunity, I think would be my...
I think I agree with you, especially access to prove how well your product works. I mean, if I talk if you don't mind, from our point of view, fortunately, we are part of a large construction company called Engineering Contracting Company that has been here in the UAE since 1974. And we also have a joinery and fit-out company called Abanos. So we have within the group that ability to collaborate within the companies within the group to show that the product works and to actually force the product into our supply chain internally. But I think that when you come from the outside and try and penetrate the market, it's very, very difficult. And people start comparing you in terms of cost and how much does your material cost in comparison to that material. And it becomes very, very difficult and challenging. And I think you're right. It's very difficult to convince people without making a prototype. And so there has to be a level of collaboration within the whole supply chain in order to prove the worth of what you're making.
And risk taking.
And risk taking.
So this was going to be my next point, is the kind of mentioning the risk that is inherent on both sides and why the gap that creates. So for a large corporate, I mean, I've been on both the SME side and the corporate side. I know from a corporate side, it's much easier to work with a large established company, even if it's something for consulting, for example, rather than to work with a small SME that's a subject matter expert in that one area because of risk. And also from the SME side, if you're working with a large corporate, sometimes you feel like you don't have the power to be able to negotiate in the ways that might be the best for you. So you end up being kind of like a pebble on the beach, being sort of pushed around by the waves, and that can be difficult too. So maybe, I don't know, if each of you maybe could mention, what does risk mean to you? How does it affect what you do? And how can we solve this problem a little bit?
I can go. I mean, I don't want to overcomplicate it, but if I can go one step even further. So
Sure.
There's that risk. Absolutely, you're right. There's the risk even from a big company's point of view, from PepsiCo's point of view. Like you said, I think there's reputation risk, there's quality risk, there's all of that. But if I can even take it a step further. So one example, a lot of our products are the snacks products, and we source our ingredients locally. So in Saudi Arabia, we don't own the farms, but we work with the farmers directly. One thing that we try to do is we try to instill that, take the farmers and our entire supply chain with us on that sustainability journey. So we've been trying to be more water efficient. And we work with farmers outside of our network just to help them save water. So almost the equivalent of how much we use in our own operation, just so that we're like more net water positive. So one of the examples is so we found date palm farmers actually. Date farmers in Al Ahsa region, and they have beautiful, like medium-sized farms, family-owned, and they're using flood irrigation at the moment. So they just flood the entire land with water. There's so much water wastage. So we assessed, we got an irrigation partner as a third-party partner to assess the situation, and we wanted to switch them from flood irrigation to drip irrigation, the latest technology that saves a lot of water, and it's a great story. So we came to work with the farmers, and this is their entire livelihood. This farmer has been used to doing something for generations and generations, and for me to come tell him, take this risk, which I find to be very calculated, my supplier finds to be very calculated, but then this farmer needs to risk his entire season to test out a new product or an innovation at the expense of his whole livelihood.
Yeah.
It's huge. And so when you ask risk, there's risk on literally from all the way to the top, all the way to the end product. There's risk on everyone, but someone's got to take it. And I think it's then up to us as companies or as government sectors as well to carry the weight of that risk with people on the ground that we're actually testing the products with.
I think that there is a huge pushback from the market, especially because of risk, because they don't know what the outcome is. It's that perception. They don't know what the outcome is. I've seen a lot of it. When I started pushing our boards, especially to certain projects that Abanois was working on, ECC was working on. I got a lot of kickbacks from pushback from the client side. It's like it doesn't exist. I said, yes, it does exist. We own it. We made it. This is it, and we guarantee it as a contractor and as the fit out contractor. And I think it's that. If you're not able to do that, it's very difficult to push your product in the market.
Yeah.
I think also creating an innovation ecosystem in a country takes some time, right? And a lot of times, countries like the UK, Germany, US, they're very well known for being highly innovative countries. China, you look at patent filings, Japan, these countries are filing huge numbers of patents. And this doesn't happen overnight. This happens from a long heritage of a supportive innovation environment that has supported not only the SMEs, but also the kind of supply chain, also things like national test centers. For example, I'm sure if we're to use your boards to build a home, they need to pass a certain fire standard regulation. A lot of this needs to be proven, and regulatory constraints are there for a reason. They're there to keep everybody safe. But they can also kind of present a barrier for bringing new products into the market, especially in very conservative sectors like the construction sector, for example, or the automotive sector, which is slow to change. So depending on the sector you're at, I think different companies face different types of risk, and it requires a really end-to-end consideration of what's required to move something from a lab in a university to a technology transfer center to kind of commercialize a new innovation to testing and demonstrating the viability of that new product or service in accordance with regulatory standards, and then finding a corporate that's willing to take that first-of-a-kind risk and build and pilot that demo plant or that pilot facility to demonstrate that it really works. And I think that last part is often the one that SMEs really struggle with, because governments can support all the way up to that pilot and demo site, but getting someone to take a leap of faith on saying, yes, I'm going to give you a piece of land, I'm going to give you access to my production line, which means I have to pause production for maybe 2 days, which costs money, right? It's that last little step of the journey where often SMEs are struggling financially because they've spent so much money and gotten these grants to be able to develop a product. And then they really are often cash strapped at this point, and it's tough to move that final step. So I think there's risk along the way. Governments can manage a huge amount upfront, and then it's really up to corporates to take that final leap.
I think that you're right, but there's also the risk of sales afterwards, and if you're able to drive the sales afterwards. Now, from our point of view, it's been taken a lot of time from our team. Sort of product placement, and where you place that product and how you can get it in there, and then where you can, what certification you need, and how you can push it. And if you're able to sell it, then you can move much easier. But definitely from a sales point of view, yes.
Well, from my kind of background, I've seen that it all comes down to personal relationships at the very end, like you were kind of mentioning, right? You can get everyone up to the final point, but then you need someone on the startup side or the SME side that's going to take that final step. You need someone from the corporate side who's going to actually care enough to fight for this SME to have that innovation. So there's this sort of like personal element that I feel like just needs to be kind of remembered when we're talking about collaborations. I mean, you can have these great systems, you can have all these processes and procedures, but at the end of the day, we're all humans and we're all trying to kind of, I would say, work together to achieve goals that we agree on. So, and especially when it comes to sustainability.
Yeah, but I also think that, you're right, but if certain legislations are put into place, and people have to meet those legislations, then it's easier to implement your idea.
Absolutely.
And also, this is where the banks come into play. If the banks are able to give preferential rates for meeting certain criteria, then your product gets pushed easier.
For sure. Absolutely. Yeah. Okay. I would like to, at this point, if there's other topics, yeah, please. Maybe we can give him a mic. Does anyone have a mic? Oh, okay. Oh, might take a while.
It's working? Good one? Okay, good morning. It's a pleasure being with you here. My question is, should be to Tala. I think that Pepsi and many companies at the moment rely on energy to run manufacturing, all that process. So everybody today is talking about energy transition and decarbonization. My question is, in the MENA region, in the Middle East and in North Africa, for example, region, we have a lot of sun. Do you have any rising project to generate your electricity from, for example, from renewable energies and mainly from solar energy, to save millions of liters or cubic meters of natural gas or liters of gasoline per day to generate that electricity? So saving those fuel and natural gas to use them for petrochemicals, for example, like Sabiq, for example, relying on natural gas and oil. and replace them with the electricity with solar energy, for example, generated from solar energy. So do you have any rising project in the future? Thank you very much.
Yeah, that's a great question, and I think it ties very nicely to this topic of policy. So actually, yes, we've committed to net zero emissions by 2040, and the 2040 is right around the corner. So what we've done specifically, I can give you the Saudi example. In Saudi, we own 2 of the snacks facilities, and they're in the industrial zone 2 in Riyadh. One in Riyadh, one in Dammam, sorry. What we've done is we've installed solar panels on the roof of both of those plants, and these are sizable plants, as you can imagine, where we generate all of the products for the country, but we also export to 10 markets. So these are large plants. We've completely covered the roofs and any surfaces that are reliable with solar power, and that's how we generate energy from that. But that only generates about 7 to 9% of the energy that I need in my operation. Past that point, we're a bit limited just because of where we're living, and I think the policy is something that we're working on changing. At the moment, the government does not allow for me to go build a solar farm somewhere else outside of my plant, anywhere in the desert, and then connect that into the grid for me to be able to reclaim that and generate energy from that. At the moment, there's a policy that prevents what is called corporate PPAs, so purchase power agreements for corporations. I think it's, as you said as well, these things take time, and so I think it's definitely part of the agenda, both in the UAE and in Saudi, and it's something that we're working very closely with the energy producers and the government to try to unlock. So to answer your question, yes, we're doing a lot. Is it going to be more in the future? Yes, but not all because of our fault. Yeah. I think we're working very closely with the ecosystem to try to help that. And you'll see that a lot of companies have reached the same kind of challenge at the moment. But I can also say that yes, while policies need to change, I think we're in the best place for that to happen. I think the government has been very cooperative. We work very closely with the Ministry of Energy in Saudi. We work with the Ministry of Energy here in the UAE, and they're really open to it. I think the most important case across anything to do, and I think it's not just for this specific scenario, but in all cases, is to build case studies and to build business cases. And that's something that we need to all get better at before we come and say, oh, the environment might not be very supportive. So it's on us as well, and that's what we're doing right now, is we're trying to get a coalition of companies to build a business case on why corporate PPAs should be unlocked and how that will help not only us as a company, but the nation get to their objectives in the near future.
Okay, thank you very much. Just, I forgot to introduce myself. I'm Shuaib Boutamin, CEO of Rana Drill Consulting and international expert in the energy sector. Thank you very much.
Amazing.
Were there any other questions? Any audience questions? Nope. Okay. Well, maybe I'll give you each a moment to just kind of give any last words or any thoughts that you might have that didn't kind of come up already. Kamal, do you want to start us off?
You put me on the spot.
Yeah, that's what I do.
No, I mean, look, we live in the momentum here in this part of the world is really, really moving, and it's moving very, very quickly. And I think it's a great place to start innovating and to start implementing all of these technologies that we're talking about here. And it's actually virgin ground for it. So I think, we're very fortunate to be here and to be part of the ecosystem here and driving it.
I mean, I just want to say that this is great that we're even invited to these kinds of panels. Like, as PepsiCo is a big corporations, there's two folds. First, I think the size, and all the focus has been on startups or on investors or on regulators, and so it's great that companies like PepsiCo are able to be part of the conversation. Second, I think knowing that we have such important environmental impact targets that we need to, as a company, relook at our own operation, how we do things, and reevaluate and then move accordingly. It's great as well that we're able to be at the forefront of to hear all of this new technology, to be able to implement it, because that's really the only way to do it. And we saw it at COP28. Once you invite, and the UAE is amazing at doing this, is once you invite corporations on the same table as the regulators, as the SMEs, this is how the real work happens, and this is how collaboration is born.
That's great to hear. And from my perspective, as I mentioned, I work with a lot of low-carbon, clean tech innovators around the world. And this space is really maturing, and it's maturing through networks and partnerships. For example, there's an accelerator kind of network called Climate Collective, based in India, and they have a network of accelerators that they can draw upon across the global south to find innovators in the global south that have really brilliant innovations. Cambridge Clean Tech in the UK similarly has created a big network of accelerators in Western Europe. There's a really rich ecosystem of innovators and support networks out there, and to move those innovations into a large scale, into a corporate environment, is really where we're going to see accelerated change and magnified impact. I think that creating programs in large corporations that actively seek out these innovations is a brilliant way of actually solving problems and achieving those low carbon targets that have been set in a way that's way easier than trying to reinvent the wheel internally. So I'd really recommend for any large corporate here who doesn't have a corporate venturing or innovation program that actively seeks out these types of companies, create one. It's not expensive, and you'll be able to solve so many of the challenges that you're facing in addressing your targets by tapping into a really rich network of exceptional innovators around the world. So, talk to me later and talk to any of us if you're keen on creating this kind of program in your own business. Thank you very much.
Okay, well, thank you very much for the audience members attending. Thank you for all the panelists. Please join me in. Thank you.